Morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our TUD regular board meeting of Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. And if everyone will rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. With that, we will open up the public forum. The board welcomes public attendance and comments on district matters. This section is reserved for items not on the agenda. Board may not discuss or take action on these items, but values and considers all input. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone that wishes to address the board? And if so, would you please advance to the podium? Please go to the podium.
Good morning. My name is Don Nessel. For those of you that don't know me, you three at least, that guy. Sure. I worked for TUD for 26 years, 1982 to 2008. I retired at that time and I started a private business. So I'm in my second career. It's called Sierra Clean Water Services, and I operate small water systems, both wastewater and water, but primarily wastewater, which is my expertise. I was the superintendent of wastewater for most of the time that I was here, also of water for 4 years. And it was an interesting time for TUD. We started out as Water District number 2. We came eventually Tuolumne Utilities District. The reason I'm here is because I have a burden to address what will eventually happen for Chinese camp. And then one of the reasons I'm here is one of the people that I contacted said, you need to start with TUD because it's their service area. And so I recognize that. He sent me a map. A guy named Mike Lucan with LAFCO. He sent me this map and showed that TUD encompasses basically all of Tuolumne County, which is good. I'm really glad. And I believe in regionalization. We have regionalized a lot of the sewer, and now you guys are gonna build an amazing water plant up there at South Fork to supply most of the county with water. But I don't believe that's necessarily the answer. That is the answer in metropolitan areas where you have 400,000 people all with the same water system and closely connected and interconnected and so forth. But that doesn't really work here. That's why I have 5 accounts. I recently partnered with a young man and we have 7 accounts between us. And eventually that will be more. There's a lot of small water systems in Tuolumne County. I'm sure you probably already know that. And some of you may be involved with some of those small water systems. I'm not sure who's who of you 3 there, and maybe we can meet later. So what I've done so far, I contacted first, I went to this guy, Mike Lucan, thinking that LAFCO would have something to do with this, that there's going to be what I consider another small agency in Tuolumne County because of the positioning of Chinese camp, although it could be what you guys have done so often, and that is take over a small water system in the middle of nowhere and start operating it for them. Not the least of which was the Big Hill Water Company with Abe Luke and all of that problem that you guys took on, and eventually turned into an amazing situation with a brand new plant and all kinds of groovy stuff. But that costs money. And so I called, the next guy I called was Eric Johnson, because I thought, Eric, he knows all about how to make things happen with water. I did work with Eric for a brief time before I retired, so we are acquainted. And so he gave me information that would help me understand how that could happen. And to make it happen with TUD, according to Jaron Brandon, who I also talked to, he said, Don, the only way to do it is an extension from the casino. And I thought, okay, really? That's not even, I wouldn't even thought of that. Mainly because of the cost and the fact that it's going to go through Williamson Act property, which you would never benefit from unless at some point those families, primarily the Gardella family, was to change its situation and subdivide and definitely benefit from a pipeline from the casino to Chinese camp. And am I limited by 3 minutes because this isn't going to work? I am.
You are, but this is a interesting subject, and I'm sure that we all want to hear what you have to say. It's almost, I think, a situation where what would have been better than to do it in this manner is to have approached to our GM, Don Perkins, and agendize this as an agenda item.
Okay,
So
I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to come back. I'm going to the supervisors meeting next, and so, you know, I don't want to waste your time. This isn't a waste of your time.
Wasting our time, but I think that we need to stick to rules, and the best way, especially for you, if you have something important to bring to us, to the board and to our ratepayers and so on, is to have it agendized, and then we can spend whatever time it takes, and you can lay out everything in detail as much as you want.
Could I do an
And you
abbreviated
also
quick
will be
layout
able
and
to
come
get
back with
input.
an agendized item? Would that
Excuse
be
me?
the best?
Excuse me?
If I do a quick layout of what I'm talking about and then come back, so you'll know what to expect when I do come back, because I live around the block. This isn't far for me to go. Plus, I take great pleasure in informing people about what this is all about.
So if you keep it short.
Okay, all right. All right, so then the next person I talked to was Debbie at the Environmental Health Department, because I had heard through Marvin Tanko, who we had a discussion about Chinese camp. He went down there immediately and started trying to repurpose people's wells. The wells are the problem. Because of talking to Debbie and Marvin both, the wells are too close to their septic systems. They don't meet the setbacks. That could be waived by the environmental health if it found that the wells checked out okay due to the fact it's been this way forever. And these people have been drinking the water. Now, nobody evaluates their water bacteriologically if they have a well. I never have with my well, and we've drank the water for 47 years. But nonetheless, it'd be wise to do that, especially if you're in a town and you're trying to get that all cleared up. So this is the bottom line. I'm looking to establish a nonprofit that would operate a water system in Chinese camp. I'm looking to, I talked to Daryl Slocum at the Sonora Area Foundation. He said, it's going to have to be an entity, Don. It can't be just some whatever. It's going to have a name. It's going to have to operate in some way. People are going to collect wages, whoever it might be. Lise Lemonnier already operates the water for the Chinese camp school, so she would likely be the operator. That would be a great situation. Nonetheless, it would require TUD to say, yeah, we recognize that, we agree with that, and we think this is a good way to go. With a nonprofit, we can obviously get donations, we can get grants, we can get all kinds of different ways to finance this at much less than the cost that Eric and I discussed, bringing it down the railroad tracks and building a tank up on the hill. They have a great hill that could give a gravity system, and it would be a real good thing. So there's many more people I talked to today. Dory Breitz, I think is her name, with the OES is going to give a presentation at the board. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to go to the supervisors, because I've already presented this to them. But it went over like a lead weight. No one even talked to me afterwards. And I thought, gosh, don't you guys care about the town of Chinese camp? Every single person lost their home. Very few of them had insurance because guess what? There is no fire protection system there, which was my main burden from the beginning. How can we put together a fire protection system? And then, oh, by the way, maybe put in some meters and have the people use that water too, so they don't have to worry about their septic systems and their wells. They can keep their wells, they can water their property, they can put in backflow devices and so forth, and everything would be great. So that's why I'm here. And I'll be glad to come back with an agendized item so we can talk to this and you can feel more comfortable. And I get to see you all again.
I'm just following the rules.
No, and I agree. I agree. I would have been cut off 2 minutes ago by the Board of Supervisors. They said, it's overdone. You can't say one more word. So.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Don.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else like to address the board? Being none, I will close the public forum and bring it to us. Melissa, please.
Okay, consent calendar. Item number 1, minutes of the regular board meeting of January 27th, 2026, and special board meeting of February 5th, 2026. Item number 2, approval of reimbursement claims for director's statement of meetings attended and or travel expenses and claim summary for January 2026.
Okay, any board members wish to pull either of the items? Director Kearns.
Claim summary.
Claim summary, anyone else? Okay, the Director Kearns and myself. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Just a couple questions. I don't question the claim summary very often, but I do look at it, and there was a couple things that I caught my eye. First one's on page 11, the Hercules Industries, $12,900 for 1.5 and 2-inch brass padlocks. I'm hoping we're getting a bunch of them for that price.
We're able to do about half of the padlocks that we have now existing. And the reason we're doing that is it's time to change the locks and change the keys.
Okay,
There's too many other keys out there.
so we're not getting new padlocks
We're
in?
getting new padlocks. What's that?
Okay, so we're not
padlocks.
changing our existing padlocks. We're
We're
getting
changing
brand
them
new.
out.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, with the new key.
So what are these padlocks? What do they go on? What are they locking up? Just curious.
Everything in it. Doors, to tanks, vaults, anything inside water treatment plants, out on the ditch system for spill gates, cross gates, everything that we have out there.
Okay,
I think it's because they all need to be keyed alike, correct?
They all need to be keyed alike. And again,
Respect
we've
that.
had the existing TUD lock for a long time now.
mm-hmm.
And it's time for a new key and a new padlock.
Okay, so we're talking mini locks.
Yes.
Okay. That's
So we'll have to budget again to finish up next year.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you. And then the other one was page 22. I'm pretty sure I know what this is, but I'm going to ask anyway. Twain Harte Community Services District for the water provided for the ditch outage. So what we bought water back from them to supplement for our ditch outage.
Yeah.
Am I correct in that? Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, it's really a nice relationship that we have with Twain Harte that we're able to pass back and forth like that. I think it's really great. Okay, my questions are on 2 of 23, Gustine Planning Associates, ditch domestic biological survey. Why? What's that all about? What is that all about?
We identified, we have 130, approximately 131 ditch domestics in the district. Ditch domestics being people that use the ditch water in the home. We identified 23 of them that are within a reasonable distance for us to connect to treated water. And then we came to the board and the board adopted a resolution. It's been a while, maybe 8 months ago now, for us to submit a grant application to the tune of about $1.8 million to do this work. But unfortunately, in order to complete the grant application, we had to do some preliminary environmental work. We hired Augustine Planning to do that. It involved some biological and plant bird surveys of the alignments for the new pipelines. And then we also, on the claim summary, there probably is one for Solano Archaeological. They did the cultural resources. The grant application is now complete. We're just awaiting funding decision.
Okay, well, that, I have a vague memory of what you're talking about, being talked about before. What I don't understand is why we hired this group when we just had EN2 do a in-depth evaluation of the entire ditch system, and it would seem to me that they probably could have given you the information for a fraction of this.
So the work that EN2 did was specific to the ditch system, and the work area for this project is not anywhere near the ditch. As a matter of fact, it's all in public roadways, driveways, because we're extending about 6,800 feet of treated water main. So the work that EN2 wouldn't have built, we couldn't build off of the work that EN2 did for this.
So this was environmental work in order to get from the treated water system to these ditch domestics.
Correct.
Okay. And that went out to bid?
We're waiting on a funding decision.
No, I mean,
Uh,
Planning Associates.
We received other proposals, but we used our on-call. Augustine Planning is an on-call contractor for us, as well as EN2. We did not contact EN2 for this work. Augustine has demonstrated to be the most effective when it comes to this kind of work. We also have ESA, they're out of town. Augustine's in town. She knows the area quite well.
Okay, thank you for that. On 6/23, I see that TUD used Chris Trott Consulting for the CAL FIRE fuel reduction phase 3, which I think is for the ditch system also. I think that's great. He's in town. He's a very
Yeah.
knowledgeable person, and oh, look at how expensive he is,
Yeah.
$294.
So that's for
Yeah.
water treatment plants and some tanks, which obviously kind of is in the ditch. Some of it will encumber the ditch system a little bit too.
Great.
So, and then you will see going forward, since you brought it up, it'll be Adam Freeze. I don't remember the name of his company. West Side Forestry will be, he's taking Chris's place because Chris has retired.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Well, that's almost too bad.
Adam's great to work with. He's local, ex-Cal Fire, and
Great,
he's been working with Chris.
good. Because Chris was always, I don't know, he's very knowledgeable and he always made a lot of sense.
Yep.
And the last one is 15/23. Left Coast Land Clearing. This one kind of took me back. Now, I know this gentleman that owns this business, and he's always been into tree work and so on. And I thought Covers always did our tank demo, or usually did, because they usually had the low bid. Well, what happened here?
Again, an on-call, we did send this out for estimates. It's not bids when on-call. And I recall we received 3 or 4 estimates for this work. And we've used a variety of contractors for this. The most recent one, Zone 2 up the hill. The estimate from a different contractor was very low. We used them and they came in very high at the end, they spent a lot more time we had expected. So,
And they were able to charge us for it?
yes, because on-call, I'm not going to go into the details, but on-call, you provide an estimate because there isn't plans or specifications.
Hmm.
And so we track the performance of these contractors and we take that into account before we award another contract. In this case, this is the first time I'm aware of us using Left Coast for a tank demo. And he came in with his estimate on point and did a great job. In addition, he did some clearing work around the tank site for us to do fuels reduction.
Oh,
It
besides,
was, yeah, we added that scope on
Okay.
when we realized he was doing the tank demo.
okay, great. Thank you much. That's all for me. Any further questions? Yes, ma'am.
On page 9, it was collage editorial. How often do we have that done for the prices that I see there?
So this is janitorial for this whole site here, the ops buildings, as well as the regional sewer plant. And it's between all of the sites, there's cleaning done every day. So here at this building, it's 3 days a week. And the ops are 2 days a week. And then regional is 3 days a week,
And so that's a monthly bill.
the monthly bill.
Okay. Then on page 19, I saw for Robertson, it said a feasibility study. Can you tell me what that feasibility study is? What it's for?
Sure.
Thanks, Eric.
Robertson Bryan is a consultant that we have used that specializes in wastewater permitting. And as a group here, we recognize that we have a new wastewater treatment plant and we have to dispose of the effluent. Currently, we use irrigation systems, but in the future, we wanted to evaluate what it would look like to discharge into Woods Creek. And there's an NPDS permit, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit that's needed for that. Dawn felt that it was, important to know what it would cost to obtain that permit, what sort of improvements we would need to make at our wastewater treatment plant, and what sort of monitoring annual costs for that would be in effect. And so we hired Robertson to do that, and they've produced a report that was very helpful in the sense that I think the general consensus is we're going to continue to land apply and irrigate our treated wastewater effluent for the future because the NPDS permit would be quite expensive. So that's what we hired them to do.
Okay, that's all I got.
Okay, with that, if there's no further questions, I don't think we have anybody. Yes, we do. Anyone from the public wish to comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. Melissa, whenever.
Okay, regular business, item number 3, public hearing and presentation on the status of vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts as outlined in AB 2561.
Okay, good morning. President Ringen, members of the board, members of the public. This morning, I have a presentation on the district's status of vacancies and recruitment and retention. This is the second annual. This is a new regulation that came to pass effective January 1st of 2025 that public agencies, because at the time the legislature was acknowledged that vacancies had been higher in the subsequent years or the previous few years. And so they had a statewide issue, this new section of the government code that says public agencies are required to notice their union if they have a bargaining unit. So we have one union, a local 1130, and we are to notice this presentation, provide it to the board prior to the board adopting an annual budget. So we're well in advance of that, and then also notify the union and let the union have the opportunity to present to the board at the same meeting. The union was notified 10 days ago that we would be having this meeting, and as with last year, they did not elect to come present to the board, but we will give you this presentation. It's just an informative information, not only district-wide information, but then we'll also have to present the specific union vacancy information as well. Based on our level of vacancies, if you have a vacancy rate of 20% or higher in any bargaining unit, then you would have to provide extra information and have just different noticing requirements, but we're not anywhere close to that. So I'll go through the presentation, but if at any time anyone has any questions, just feel free to stop me and then we can answer your questions. So I did talk a little bit about this. This is some background about the law. But again, I just talked about that. So we have 65 positions that are bargaining unit classifications here at the district out of our 84 total employees. So 65 union, 19 unrepresented or non-union employees. So today we'll provide district-wide information and then again specifically about the union. So this is for the calendar year 2025. So this chart up here is our vacancy information per month of 2025. So at the bottom there, along the bottom row is the vacancy rate per month. And so then you take an average of that. And so our average vacancies at the end of the month was 2.8%. The highest month we had 3.6%. And then the lowest month we had 1.2%. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about recruitment and then we'll get into retention. So recruitment is when you have vacancies and you are trying to bring new employees in, or potentially have internal recruitment where you would have maybe a manager or superintendent position where it would benefit the district by having internal recruitment. So we hold different types of recruitment. But this year in 2025, we filled 13 vacancies. And so we're gonna break it down in which way so the first way is we filled one of the vacancies by an existing eligibility list or an ongoing recruitment. What an eligibility list is once you run a recruitment, you have eligible folks that are in that recruitment and and there could be several that are qualified that could take that position, but if you only have one vacancy, you choose the selected most qualified applicant, and then you have an eligibility list of folks that would also be eligible to fill that position. This is outlined in our personnel policy, how this goes, but then you hold that eligibility list for 6 months. And then should that same classification become vacant within that 6 months, then you can pull from the eligibility list without fully doing a full-blown recruitment again. So that's what that means. We filled just one vacancy or an ongoing recruitment could be a position that you're recruiting for just on an ongoing basis. So the average number of calendar days to fill the vacancy was 94 days, which is higher than it was last year. The second is number of vacancies filled by new external or internal recruitment. So we run external recruitment would be it's open to the public, it's in the paper, it's advertised widely, and you're bringing in external recruitment, external candidates, and then internal as well. All of our positions are posted internally first, or at least concurrently with an external recruitment. That is an agreement that we have with our union. So the vast majority of our recruitments are external and internal concurrent recruitments. We filled 9 vacancies with external, internal recruitments, and the average number of days to fill those vacancies was 66. Last year, the average number of days to fill was 45. So we've increased about 30% on the number of days to fill vacancies. Yes, Ron?
So that's all very interesting, and I can see where it could get real challenging in order to fill certain vacancies. One of them that is bothering me right now is how to replace our, I'll call it PR person. And that's a tough, what the position that Emily held was multifaceted. And to find somebody to fill her shoes is going to be pretty tough. Now, I didn't know that there was a recruitment going on, and I just recently found out about it. And also found out that it wasn't successful, which is why I'm asking this question. What is there, if you can't find the right person, you can't just have the spot remain open. How, is there a method or thinking about maybe hiring somebody that is motivated and has some of the skills, but be able to put them in a position maybe at a lower pay rate and with the understanding that, you know, yeah, you can get here, but boy, you're gonna have to do some homework and you're gonna have to do some learning and everything else in order to finally get to that position, in order to finally get the right person to fill that spot. Does any of that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense, and that's absolutely what we're doing right now as far as evaluating what are the current and future needs of the district, what is our capacity internally right now with staff that we have now. So unfortunately, when we have those openings, it usually falls on the supervisor or the department head to make sure that those are, well, it always falls on the department head or the supervisor to ensure that those job responsibilities are taken care of. And then how do we, within the framework of our classification plan, divvy up some of the other responsibilities, if possible, to willing and able internal employees that maybe weren't fully qualified to fill the higher position, but could we give them an opportunity to, with some stretch assignments, to see if that's something that they would be well suited for? So you guys have approved a few classifications. Certainly, if you've been on the board longer, you've seen more that have come to the board where we created job series, where we've either expanded or somehow modified a job classification to change for the needs of the district. So just like that, you're right, Ron, we are digging really deep on what we have here currently, what we could recruit for to get the basics done, but then also to train someone up. Because a job like Emily's, and where you're doing a lot of different things, I mean, we joke, but you have to know about everything. So to hire someone externally that has some of the qualifications, but not all of the qualifications, is challenging. So that was a task that we had with, Dawn and Eric and I on the panel, is to see what level of effort would it take to train someone up that has some of those skills and abilities from external versus maybe be able to do that internally and start at a different level. So I'm just regurgitating, I think, really what you said. But yeah, that's absolutely what we do. If we can't do it one way, we just have to try and pivot and do it a different way to be successful.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that really concerns me the most is that, first of all, PUD in and of itself is horribly complex. And so person coming in, it's a big learning curve right there. But that's not the thing that really concerns me. We are embarked on several, one in particular, huge project. And we need to, I feel, I've been talking about this now for a couple of years. We need to be working on a PR program so that our ratepayers will be fully understanding of why we're doing what we're doing and how it's going to affect them, so on. And of course, I'm talking about the PG&E acquisition. And it can't just all of a sudden come at the last minute, because it'll be, in my opinion, it'll be a failure. You know, people will rebel against it unless they really understand it. And understanding it is going to take some real good PR work to be able to, get people to understand why exactly we're going down this road. It's for their good. So
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah, I echo that, completely agree with you, Ron. Yep.
I agree as well. And we were, did you want to?
We got to get to the agenda item.
Yeah.
I can't see Melissa, but I can feel it.
Okay. So the next one, without getting too specific, but, so we did have, an internal only recruitment. We filled 2 vacancies that way for an average of 19 days. When it's an internal only recruitment, it does go quite a bit faster, because there's some steps that you don't necessarily have to do with someone that's already been vetted as a district employee. And then we did close 2 recruitments last year. One has, actually both have been reopened this year, but sometimes we close them due to just getting stale or inactivity and just, or we need to readjust, like we were just talking about, we need to pivot, we need to update the classification for requirements and just so that we can get it back out there so it doesn't look like it's just been lingering. So because there's a psychological thing when someone's seen a position that's been posted for 6 months. So, and then sometimes the district changes its needs. We might say, okay, we're gonna fill that now, or we're not gonna fill that now, and then we're gonna reevaluate and do that later. So that's on the recruitment side. Some of the hiring factors that go into, that are potential obstacles that we've identified are the application process. We have since gone to a applicant tracking system that is a little bit easier to navigate for both the applying candidate as well as the district for tracking purposes. It also helps out to keep us compliant with all the state laws with respect to recruitment and vacancy status. One of our obstacles is a lower number of applicants now than we used to have. It does vary by job classification, but that is an obstacle that we deal with. And then also market conditions. So we're always evaluating market conditions and where we're at in the market, and that does affect who applies at the district. So some of the things, again, this is a little bit what we've already talked about. We review the classifications, we review the requirements, see what is really required. Sometimes you've set a level of requirement and then over time you realize that that might not be a necessary requirement for the position. And it is really highly, it's very highly analyzed at certain levels if you have a bunch of requirements that is not actually required for the job. So it's important for us to do that and then to also study the market comparability. Okay, on the retention side, we had those vacancies that we filled. These are the vacancies that were created in 2025. So we filled 13, we had 13 created. So 2 of the positions became vacant due to having new budget positions in the construction maintenance division. Let's see, we didn't have any based on internal promotion this year. We had 2 vacancies created by internal transfer. So we had a recruitment and 1 person from maybe 1 department or division was selected for the position in another department or division. So that creates a vacancy on that in that original department. And then we had 3 created by retirement, 3 created by involuntary separation, or like, for instance, we released someone from their probation period. And then we had 4 vacancies created by voluntary separation. So someone resigns from the district and goes to work somewhere else. So that resulted in an annual staffing turnover rate, voluntary turnover rate of 6%. That's last year, we also had a 6% turnover rate. So that has stayed the same from 2024 to 2025. Okay, and then we also talked about we need to do union specific. So on the union specific vacancy as of December 31st, 2025, our vacancy rate was 3.1% in the union positions. And that's all I have to share. Any other questions come up?
Well, just, thank you for excellent job.
Oh.
Just how do you have a sense of how we compare with other comparable districts with our retention?
Yeah, so one of the closer districts that I look at when is Calaveras County Water District. They're reporting a vacancy rate of about 2%. I don't know how they come to that because there are some different ways on voluntary versus involuntary and retirements and things, but according to last year's presentation, they had was a 2% vacancy rate. Yes.
Yeah, Abby, looking at on the agenda, on the item for this, I just have a question here. It talks about the reason for this act, widespread and significant problem for the public sector affecting occupations across wage levels and educational requirements. Well, I'm just wondering why this is an issue, why they had to pass an act on it. I'm not trying to be adversarial on that. I'm genuinely curious. What is the problem or the issue that they were trying to correct with this act?
I don't know necessarily what their thinking was of it, but if you're, so they have identified in the public sector that they have higher vacancy than they've had in the past. And so that's affecting public services. So we're talking cities, counties, the state, local agencies. So when you have higher vacancy rates, then you're not providing public services that the public's relying on. So I think by bringing it to the forefront and requiring that an agency really dive into this with their elected boards. So to make sure that the elected bodies are aware of what the recruitment and retention efforts, and then also to bring the unions into the mix so that they can have participation in that as well.
Okay, so as you showed there, our vacancy rate is really not that high. I mean, would you agree with that?
Vacancy rate,
Yeah,
yep,
is really not that high, correct?
correct.
So would I be correct in assuming then that in the bigger, larger areas, they must have a much higher vacancy rate? And that could be the underlying issue on this?
Well, last year I remember them when this was coming out, well, actually at the end of 2024, I remember hearing about certain other public agencies in more urban areas, like of upwards of 30% vacancy.
Really?
That is partially in response to following COVID. There was what was called the Great Resignation. And so
Okay.
people making different life decisions. I mean, public agency retirement benefits are different now than they used to be. So it's just a little bit of a different animal. But yeah, there were vacancy rates everywhere remained really high back in 2021, 22, 23. And then I think that kind of led them to think that this was a possible solution.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any further questions? If not, then thank you, Abby. And Melissa?
Director Ringen?
Yes,
President Reagan, would we like to do staff reports and directors' communication?
yeah, that probably would be a good idea.
Okay.
Thanks for the reminder.
We'll do staff reports.
All right, so if that's what we're gonna do, we're looking at Mr. GM.
Yeah, I'll go first. I only have a few things. On February 4th, I attended the Natural Resources Committee meeting. It's an almost monthly meeting unless there's holidays or some reason not to have one. This was a fairly short meeting. It's currently held at the Ann Francisco building on Yaney Street, but nothing really to write home about except for maybe two things. There was a pretty good update by Sean Hembry on the master stewardship agreement. This had a lot to do with all of the hazardous fuels reduction projects that are going on around the county. You know, believe it or not, there's a lot of success in that area. So I'm pretty happy to report that. And there's much more to come on that as the months and years go forth. The only other thing that came out of note, and it's now being taken up at the county supervisors meetings, Supervisor Kirk wanted the committee members just to be aware and listen up for some movement, so to speak. Up at Pinecrest, you know, for years, there's been some thought about overcrowding and things of that nature. So, you know, how the county feels obligated to find, you know, some resolutions to that to minimize it, I suppose. But one of the things that they're looking to institute, they being the county, is paid parking up there. So anyway, that's the end of my report. As far as that goes, 2-5, I attended the special board meeting, GM evaluation, and then yesterday I met with President Ringen to discuss district business. That's the end of it.
Friday, I attended the Tuolumne County Drought Task Force quarterly meeting. Talked about wells, what water looks like for the year, heard about Chinese camp a little bit. Report.
Nothing to report today.
We're just continuing to work on mid-year budget review, of which you'll get a presentation on next board meeting.
The only thing I wanted to share was I had talked at the last board meeting about a tour that our staff put on at the Tuolumne Water Treatment Plant for the 5th graders at Somerville Elementary School. And we got this such a cute thank you note. I'll send it around. You guys can take a look at it. It just has a nice note from the 5th graders and all of them signed their name. And so Kathleen Washington, one of the 5th grade teachers there who we coordinated with, was just very thankful and just was very appreciative and loved TUD staff, said they did a great job. So I'll just pass that around for you guys to check out.
All right, then I guess we'll bring it to the board and start at this end.
Thank you, President Ringen. Let's see, on the January 28th, there was the first Federal Affairs Committee meeting. It was a Zoom meeting. There were about 60 some odd folks in attendance, and there were 4 bills that with a legislative update, and committee was asked to discuss. Given our schedule today, I'm going to not go into detail on all 4, but they were asked to take a committee action to recommend, follow staff recommendation to approve a position. So there were 60 some odd folks voting. There was 1 abstention, which was me, because I wanted to make sure that I have the board support before making commitments on behalf of the board. So next session, we should have more time where we can go into some of the details. Then, of course, the closed session on the 5th. And as we all know, the Aqua Conference is coming up in May. I'm looking forward to that. That's all I got.
Nothing to report other than the closed session on the 5th.
Yes, nothing to report. Thank you.
Other than the 5th, I have nothing to report.
Okay, on 129, had a meeting with GM Perkins, TUD District Attorney, and a water attorney on an upcoming project. 1:30, attended the Aqua Headwaters Committee meeting. More to come on that. That is first time I've ever attended that, and I found that some of the members are those that I have served with or are serving with, or I should say recently served with, like on the legislative committee from mountain counties and so on. As a matter of fact, the chairman of that group is Michael Sanders from Amador, who is very, very committed to our mountain counties water headwaters. So at any rate, there'll be more coming on that soon. 1.5 was closed session, everybody's already said. 1.9 met again with GM Perkins concerning numerous TUD current issues. So that's the end of my report. And with that, I guess we will finally get to the closed session.
Okay, closed session. A, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency Representative Don Perkins, Abby Parkon. Employee Organization, Northern California District Council of Laborers, Construction, Production, and Maintenance Laborers, Local Union 1130.
That was a mouthful. Okay, with that, why don't we recess for about maybe 10 quick minutes, let everybody do whatever they gotta do and maybe grab a snack or something, and then go into closed session. And it is my understanding that this will pretty much be just talk, so there should be no reportable action. So with that, then when closed session is over, the meeting will be over. So with that,